You did something. Maybe you stepped on the dog's tail in the dark and it yelped and bolted. Maybe you shut a door too fast on the cat. Maybe it was a bad day and you snapped, sharper than you meant to, at a creature that didn't deserve it. And now it's across the room, not looking at you, curled small, turned away. And you feel terrible. And underneath the guilt, there's a quieter, stranger worry. Does it hold this against me now? Will it remember? Have I just damaged something I can't take back? Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe there's a crow. You shooed it off your car once, threw something near it, chased it off, and ever since, that crow, or one that looks just like it, seems to single you out. Dives at you, scolds you from the wire when you walk by. Like it knows you, like it's keeping a list and you're on it. So here's the question tonight. Do animals forgive? When you wrong them, do they let it go, or do they carry it? And do they hold grudges, nursing an old wrong, waiting? Because the answer is both. And the line between when an animal forgives and when it never forgets turns out to follow a logic so clean and so wise that it's going to hold up a mirror to every grudge you've ever carried. By the end of this, I'm going to tell you about crows that remembered the face of a person who wronged them for years and taught other crows to hate that face too. A grudge passed down like a story to birds who weren't even there when it happened, and about what chimpanzees do within minutes of a brutal, screaming fight. Something that we, with all our wisdom and all our words, often cannot manage in years. But the deepest question we're building toward is this. Is forgiveness a noble, lofty thing that we human beings invented? Or is it older than us, older than morality itself, built into the bones of every creature that ever needed somebody else to survive? Stay with me, because this one ends up being about you and someone you haven't spoken to in too long. Let's start by admitting the question has two halves, and that both halves are real. Animals forgive, and animals hold grudges. The interesting part isn't which one is true. They're both true. The interesting part is when an animal chooses each one, because that choice isn't random. It follows a rule. So, let's take the halves one at a time, and then watch the rule appear. First, forgiveness, or at least the thing that looks exactly like it. For a long time, people assumed that when animals fought, that was that. They just fought and moved on, or fought and became enemies, with nothing in between. And then a scientist actually started watching closely what social animals do in the minutes after a conflict, and he found something nobody expected. They make up. After a fight, chimpanzees will come back to each other, often within minutes, and they will kiss, embrace, hold each other, groom one another's fur. Former opponents, who were just screaming and lunging, deliberately seeking each other out to repair the damage. Researchers measured it carefully, and it was real. After a fight, the two who fought come together more than they otherwise would, not less. They reconcile. They have an actual, observable peace process. And it isn't just chimps. Once people knew to look for it, they found this reconciliation everywhere in the social animal world. In other primates, in dolphins, in wolves, in hyenas, in goats, in all sorts of creatures whose lives depend on staying bonded to a group. They fight and then they repair. And there's more. When one animal is the victim of a fight, bystanders, animals who weren't even involved, will sometimes come over and comfort the loser, embracing it, grooming it, soothing it. The group doesn't just contain the conflict, it actively heals it. This is not a world of cold grudges and permanent enemies. It's a world full of creatures working constantly to mend the bonds that hold them together. And here's the first glimpse of the rule, the thing that makes it wise instead of just soft. Animals reconcile most with the ones that matter most. Allies, family, long-term partners, the bonds that are valuable to them, the relationships they can't afford to lose, those are the ones they rush to repair. They don't reconcile with everyone equally. They forgive where forgiveness is worth it. The repair is aimed precisely at what's worth saving. Hold on to that, because it's the whole secret. Now the other half, the grudge. Because the same animals that forgive so readily can also remember a wrong with a precision that should genuinely unsettle you, and the crows are the masters of it. Researchers ran an experiment where people wearing a particular mask did something threatening to crows, trapped them, handled them, frightened them. And then they let the crows go, and waited. And those crows remembered the mask for years. Anyone who walked through the area wearing that face got scolded, mobbed, dive-bombed, harassed by the crows who'd been wronged. That alone is remarkable. But here's the part that should give you chills. The grudge spread. Crows who had never been trapped, who had never had a single bad experience with that mask, learned to hate it too, picking it up from the others, joining the mob. The wrong was remembered and taught and passed along like a story handed down. A face that did harm became a face the whole community recognized and resented, long after the original crime, carried by birds who only knew it second-hand. And crows aren't alone in this either. Elephants are warier around people and groups they associate with harm. Primates remember who cheated them, who took without giving back, who broke a deal, and they adjust, cooperating less with the ones who proved unreliable. These animals keep accounts, they track who's been good to them and who's wronged them, and they carry that ledger forward. They even have the raw feeling underneath it, the sense of being treated unfairly. There's a famous experiment with capuchin monkeys, two of them side by side doing the same little task for a reward. One gets a piece of cucumber, which is fine, perfectly acceptable, until the monkey sees the other one get a grape for the exact same task. A grape is much better. And the cucumber monkey loses it. It refuses to go on. It throws the cucumber back at the researcher. It rattles the cage in protest. It has just watched itself be treated worse than its neighbor for no reason, and it is offended, genuinely, visibly offended. Dogs show a version of this too, refusing to keep performing a trick if another dog is getting rewarded and they aren't. So animals don't just register harm, they register injustice. They feel the wrong, the unfairness of it, the sting of being treated worse than they deserved.
That's the raw material of taking offense, sitting right there in a monkey throwing a cucumber.
So now we have both halves on the table. They forgive, they hold grudges, and here, finally, is the rule that unites them. And it's beautiful, and it's pure survival. For a social animal, relationships are not a luxury, they are infrastructure. They are the thing that keeps you alive. Your group hunts together, defends together, raises young together, survives together. And in any group that lives that closely, there will be conflict, constantly. Squabbles, fights, hurt feelings, collisions. So here's the problem evolution had to solve. If every single conflict permanently destroyed a bond, the group would shatter in a week. No alliance would survive its first argument. The whole social fabric would come apart. A creature that ended every relationship over every fight would die alone. So evolution built the repair mechanism. It built reconciliation, the drive to forgive and rebuild, because the bonds are too valuable to throw away over a quarrel. Forgiveness, in a social animal, is the thing that keeps the group from falling apart. But, and this is the other edge, you also cannot be a pushover. You cannot let yourself be cheated again and again, harmed again and again, exploited by the same bad actor forever. A creature with no memory for wrongs would be taken advantage of into an early grave. So evolution also built the grudge, the ledger, the wariness, the memory for who hurt you, who cheated you, who's dangerous, so you can protect yourself, so you don't get burned twice. And now look at how perfectly the two fit together. The animal forgives the bonds that are worth keeping and stays wary of the ones that would harm it. The chimp reconciles with its ally within minutes, because that alliance is worth far more than winning the fight. But the crow never forgives the trapper, because that face means real danger, and forgetting it could be fatal. It's not that some animals forgive and others hold grudges, it's that the same animal does both, sorting every wrong by a single ancient question. Is this a bond worth saving, or a threat worth remembering? Forgiveness for the valuable, vigilance for the dangerous. It isn't softness and it isn't coldness. It's the deep wisdom of a creature that knows, in its bones, that it needs others to survive, and also that not everyone can be trusted. So let's bring it home, into your house. Does your dog forgive you? It does. Almost certainly it does. When you step on its tail, when you snap at it on a bad day, when you're unfair to it in a moment of stress, it comes back. Maybe not in the very next second, maybe it needs a minute, but it comes back and it repairs the bond, and it doesn't keep a running tally of your failures to throw in your face later. And this is the crucial thing to understand. That's not because your dog is stupid, or has no memory, or doesn't notice when you wrong it. It's because your dog has made exactly the calculation the chimpanzee makes. Its bond with you is worth more to it than the wound. You are, to your dog, a relationship far too valuable to throw away over a bad moment. So it forgives you, not out of foolishness, but out of the same ancient wisdom that holds every social group together. Cats, I'll be honest, can be a little different, and you probably already know this. A cat tends to be warier, slower to let a real hurt go, more once bitten, twice shy. And that fits everything we've learned in this series about where the cat comes from, the more solitary heart, the creature built to protect itself first, to need no one, to keep its own counsel. A cat's slower forgiveness isn't coldness, it's self-protection, running a little higher than the dog's because its ancestors couldn't count on a pack to have their back. Both animals can reconcile, both can avoid you for a while after a genuine fright. The science on exactly how pets hold or release these things is thinner than I'd like, so I won't overclaim, but the shapes are clear. The dog leans toward repair, the cat leans toward caution, and both are ancient, and both make sense. And now the turn, the part that holds up the mirror, because we human beings have built whole philosophies and religions around forgiveness. We treat it as one of the highest, hardest, most noble things a person can do, a lofty moral achievement we have to be taught, that takes years of effort and wisdom to manage. But look at what the animals just showed us. Forgiveness is older than all of that. It is older than morality, older than religion, older than language. It is not some refined thing we invented. It is a survival tool, built into social creatures millions of years before anyone had a word for it. The drive to repair what's worth keeping was running in our ancestors before our ancestors were even human. And here's the humbling part, the sting. In some ways, the animals are better at this than we are. A chimpanzee reconciles within minutes of a vicious, screaming fight because the bond simply matters more to it than being right. And we, with all our wisdom, can hold a grudge against a sibling for a decade, against a parent for half a lifetime. We can stop speaking to a friend over something that never once threatened our survival and let the silence harden into years, into a permanent loss, all because of pride, because we wanted to win, because we couldn't be the one to reach out first. We win the argument and lose the person. The chimp's quick forgiveness isn't simplicity, it's a wisdom we keep losing. The deep, certain knowledge that the relationship is worth more than the wound. So what do the animals actually teach us here? Not to forgive everything, that was never the lesson, and the crow proves it. The lesson is to forgive the bonds worth keeping, and to forgive them faster, before pride poisons what's precious. The animals point at the people who matter, the irreplaceable ones, and they say, repair that, now, while you still can. Don't let an evening's anger grow into a decade of silence. Don't let being right cost you someone you can't replace. And the grudge has its own honest wisdom too, and I won't pretend otherwise. The crow's long memory isn't pettiness, it's self-protection. It's the dignity of a creature that refuses to pretend it wasn't hurt, that remembers real harm and guards against it. You do not owe forgiveness to what would harm you again. Boundaries are ancient and honorable, written into the bones right alongside reconciliation. The wisdom isn't forgive everyone. The wisdom is know the difference, repair the bond that's worth saving, protect yourself from the one that isn't. The animals have been doing exactly that for millions of years, and your dog, forgiving you your worst days, again and again, 100th time and counting, is not a fool, and it is not weak. It has simply made the same choice love always makes when it's wise. The bond over the grievance. You over the wound, every single time, and maybe when it pads back over to you after you've been unfair to it and leans its weight against your leg like nothing happened, it's quietly teaching you something, showing you, in the only language it has, that the ones you love are worth more than being right, worth more than the wound, worth repairing today, while there's still a today to do it in. Isn't it strange, and isn't it humbling, how much mending happens in the animal world in total silence with no philosophy behind it at all? The chimp reaches for its enemy and makes peace. The crow remembers the face that meant danger. The dog leans back into the person who hurt it because the love outweighs the hurt. It's the same machinery we followed all season into every quiet room, the mind that feels watched in the dark, that loses itself in a doorway, that raises fur it no longer has, that keeps half awake in a strange bed, that holds its missing people, that keeps watch over a failing body, that chooses a favorite, that grieves what it loved, that dreams the old wild fields, that feels the turning of the day. And here, again, an ancient program, the deep social wisdom that keeps a group from shattering, the forgiveness that is older than any of our names for it, running quietly in the creatures who lean back into us after we've let them down. So do animals forgive? They do, the ones worth forgiving. And they remember, the ones worth remembering. They've been doing both, with a balance most of us never quite master, since long before there were words like grudge or grace. And the dog at your feet, who forgives you over and over, isn't simple. It's wise. It knows the one thing we keep forgetting under all our pride, that the bond is worth more than the wound, almost every time, and that the time to repair it is now, while the other one is still here to repair it with. You hurt me. I won't pretend you didn't. I felt it, and I needed a moment, and I took it. But you are worth more to me than that moment was. You always have been. So here I am, back at your side, leaning in, the slate wiped, because I would rather have you than be right, every single time. I learned that a long time ago, longer than your kind has had words for it. And if there's someone you've been keeping at a distance, someone worth more than the wound, maybe it's not too late for you to learn it too. Go on. Lean back in. That's all forgiveness ever was.